Hello, and welcome back to a new episode of Spiritually Unfiltered. We are so happy to have you here. And today this is our first episode since this is our first
Releasing the podcast.
recording that we've done since we actually released the podcast. And so we have a really exciting topic to talk about, and it's very much related to our own experiences that come up when releasing our podcast and stepping into another arena of visibility, of expression, of authenticity. And so this is also a question that we get so much from our clients, from our community, from you guys. And so we think it is going to be a very important topic to talk about. And so, what is our topic today, Sima?
So, visibility, I feel, is a really big thing that we both get asked a lot about, and people having these shadows and these nerves around being visible in social media and really wanting to show up in a way. And there's so many different subconscious beliefs that come up for everyone around it. And instead of just answering everyone, we just decided let's do an episode on this and let's really talk about visibility, the different like shadows that come up around it, and what we each find very supportive to just help ourselves come on social media, show up, and allow ourselves to be seen. And I think one thing you and I have spoken about is that with this being seen, it's also about when people feel afraid to be seen on social media, it's also like, in what ways are you afraid to be seen in your life? And in what ways are you holding back? And then, shadows come up in all of these ways, and we're always evolving in the different ways that we are being seen. And so let's just talk about, I feel like to start off, let's just talk about what helped you get started and what really propelled you to start speaking on your social media, to just like share your experience and talk about human design, because I'm sure you had nerves there to show up, but like what helped you move through that?
So, to be honest with you, I was thinking about this the other day, and even as a child, like when I was in school, I was that kind of person who, when you finish like a project and the teacher asks, like, who wants to come and like read it out? I was always the kid that put my hand up first. And it was one of those where it was kind of like, Abby, like, let somebody else like volunteer, you know? So, like, in a way, I have always sort of been connected to that part of myself, and I've always enjoyed showing up. But I think where I found it the hardest was when all of a sudden I had this great purpose for myself showing up. There was this subject, human design, that I was so excited about and I was so passionate about, and I wanted to impact people. I wanted it to be heard. And where the shadows came up for me was when I started talking about it, I didn't feel like I was heard. It was, and this is like a question that I get all the time as well is, oh, like, should I start a brand new account because I only have like my family or friends following me now, and what are they gonna think? What are they going to say? And honestly, I had like some friends that, had been good friends unfollow me, and just because they didn't resonate with what I was all of a sudden sharing, which is fine, like I'm not talking to them anyway. Um, but that was like a really sore spot for me when it was kind of like, and I think so many people can resonate with this because I've seen so many reels made on this, but it's like that strangers support you more than like your friends or something like that. And I remember feeling hurt if I posted something and my friends didn't see it and they didn't like it, and I'd feel like it was, and I think we feel those things because what we are stepping into talking about feels important. It feels personal. We're passionate about it, right? But I honestly think those things, like when those shadows come up, that is a sign that you're moving in the right direction. You're
Yeah.
actually, because expansion, I keep talking about this because I keep marrying these two words together lately, but expand, like stretching, we think about the actual feeling of like stretching our body, or that it's uncomfortable, right? Stretching and expansion are exactly the same thing. And so when you are expanding in your life, when you're stepping into new roles, you're going to be required to stretch yourself, and that is what is uncomfortable. But we have to allow ourselves to do it. And
Yeah.
so sometimes, like, again, this is my fire energy, isn't it? Where I'm like, just do it. Just start posting, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I agree with you with there's a few things you said that really stand out. One is just being very passionate about what it is that you want to talk about and speak about, and I think that passion drives. And so when people want to come up and they want to be seen for what they have to say, it's just make sure you're very passionate and it's very heart-led and it's very purpose-led, and it's not for you to be seen, it's for others to receive the message. And I think that's where some people, it's like when we're just thinking of us being seen, it becomes very like ego driven, like me, I want to be seen. But it becomes very different where the reason why you want to be seen, it's not that you want to be seen, you want your message to be seen. And that's what you want to deliver to people. And I think that's a very important aspect that you said. It was something that you were so passionate about. And I also, when I started sharing on my social media, of course, there was a little bit like nerves of like, I'm just going to go on my stories and talk, or I'm going to create a reel and I'm going to talk. It's not just like a post and words. And I've always been the type that when I want to do something, and I think this is just my personality. I don't know if it's like second child syndrome or something, but I just jump in. I'm gonna jump in. I'm gonna figure it out. Like the other stuff were set enough where I knew that I get to share this stuff, and I'm one of those people where like it'll feel scary, but I'll do it anyways. And I
Hmm.
don't allow the fear to stop me. I think so many people get into their heads and they get into the logistics of everything. But what about this and what about that? And it's like you cross all those bridges once you get there. You kind of just have to start. You have to jump. And once you jump, the different lessons come, the different experiences come. And whatever shadows that you have in your way will actually show their heads. And then you'll like navigate through it that way. But you're not going to learn what's holding you back until you take the first step. And so I think for anyone who's really working on visibility and wanting to be seen, just show up, because after you show up, you'll see what comes up for you. Like the thing that came up for you was, oh, I'm nervous of what like my family and friends are going to say, and then it's like you start working through that. And for me, I was always like, what if nobody wants to watch this? What if my words aren't actually valuable? And I realized like that was a shadow that I had, and I got to sit with it. And then I got to ask myself, Seema, do you want to believe this or do you want to not believe this? Like this exists in there, but what is it going to serve you to believe it? And I said, it's only going to serve me staying quiet and small. So I'm going to like transform these shadows and say, no, my words are important. My words are of value. And my words aren't even my own words, they're messages, they're downloads. And I wouldn't have this drive, this passion, and this desire to share these with other people to support other people's lives if I wasn't meant to. And I think that's important for people to know. If you have this desire to be visible, again, the visibility is not for yourself, the visibility is for your message. If you have that desire, it's because God wants you to share this message and it wants to come from your perspective as well. And so remember that and go full force with this, that people need to hear this message from you. And just jump in. And once you jump, you'll navigate through the shadows that come.
Yeah. And I always think it's like you've got to imagine that there are people waiting for you to talk. There are
Yeah,
people waiting for your message. And when you're not showing up, and this kind of reframe actually helped me a lot, if you are not allowing yourself to dive into that, you're
yeah,
actually doing a disservice to those people who are waiting for your message,
yeah,
And It is. Again, like I said, when we feel that stretch, it means that you're doing something right. You're stepping
It means
into
it's
evolution.
working.
Hmm.
Yeah, nobody grew in comfortable scenarios. Like that just never happens. It gets very uncomfortable. And I think one other thing that comes up as you say this, a lot of people then have this limiting belief of, but there's so many other people that are talking about this. There's so many other people that are already doing this. And this could be for literally any topic. And it's like, there's so many other people doing it. Yes, but no one is you and no one does it like you. And that's the important part that we have to remember because there are messages that you and I share that are the same message, but someone can hear it out of my mouth and be like, okay, cool. But then they'll hear it out of your mouth with your tone, with your energy, with your theme of how you're speaking about this thing, and it'll land. And
Exactly.
so it doesn't matter how many people are doing the same thing for you that as other people are. It's if you have the calling to share this thing, share it because the way you share it, your magic with it, your energy with it, that's what people need and that's how they receive it. And I think it
Mm.
really goes down to what is it that you're sharing? Are you sharing something just to share, or are you sharing it because it genuinely is a calling and a passion? Like that has to be there. Because when you're very passionate about something, you won't let your fears get in your way. But if you're passionate about something just because it's like an ego-driven thing, then I will be seen and I will be popular and I will be famous or whatnot. That's not enough to drive you forward.
Yeah, and then that comes from this sort of energy of competition and not this
Yeah.
energy of creator, you know? And so,
That's a really good point, Abby, because
mhm.
yes.
Yeah. And, I think when it comes to visibility in the online space in particular, I always see it as it's like this amplification of expression, self-expression in life, because like you said, when it came to you showing up online, what did you say about the shadow or the fear that you had when you were showing up online?
That what if people like what if my words aren't valuable?
Right.
What if
Okay.
it
Yeah.
isn't actually
Like,
valuable?
yeah, so that was your shadow. What if my words aren't valuable? So, do you see how that can be something that is amplified in the online space, and you could be experiencing that shadow behind the scenes in different areas of your life?
Absolutely. I think every time we step into a different aspect of ourselves that wants to show up, it
Mm,
really shows hidden stuff in all other aspects of our lives.
yeah.
And I think one of the reasons why people find like fear or anxiety in wanting to show up on social media is because in their own lives, in their personal lives, they probably weren't seen either. And so for some
Mm,
people, it's like a self-worth thing. Am I even worthy of being seen?
mm,
And I think the biggest message is don't allow these things to stop you. Jump in and then as they come up, navigate through them. Don't let
hmm.
them be stopping points. Let them be what you're going to break through from.
Exactly. And this is, what we talk about this a lot just personally together, but that actually are shadows. That's part of the integration process. That is that signal and that sign that you are moving to the next level. And so it is so easy for us to reject our shadows. It is so easy for us to say, oh, this is uncomfortable or this isn't working and retracting, but this is actually, I always think when it comes to our shadows, this is actually when we have to lean in. So we were talking just before we started recording. So we were talking about, Seema, you're having like a detox process right now,
Please.
like a physical detox process. And I had this download a couple of weeks ago. And when it comes to like a physical detox, say we are going on like a diet or a detox of some kind, and your body starts releasing whatever is within in a really physical way, right? And we tell ourselves in that moment, oh, I'm detoxing. This is like part of the process. I have to ride it out. Let's flow with it. But when it comes to this sort of mental diet, let's say, or this mental detox, detoxing from those old stories, detoxing from those old beliefs, those old ways of showing up, we feel those things come to the surface. Those things come to the surface to be released,
Yeah.
and we retract. We don't see that in the same way as we would see a physical detox. Do you know
Yeah,
what I
it's
mean?
almost like what you're basically saying is when we go through these physical detoxes, we have die-off symptoms. That's what they're
Yeah.
called.
Mm.
And they're die-off symptoms and they're not always the most fun, but they're part of the process. And when we go into our lives and we want to show up in a new way, there are die-off symptoms. And it's
Mhm.
the die-off of the old you that wasn't doing this, aka the shadows that come up. And you're right, I think a lot of people do stop in that space versus allowing themselves to see that as a healthy part of the process. If anything, it's showing you that it's working. Like when I was having some of my most severe die-off symptoms, I was talking to my health coach and I'm like, this is uncomfortable. However, I'm grateful for it because we know it's working.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so maybe let's lower some of the dosages of things to ease off the symptoms, but I'm not going to stop the process because of this. And I think that's where too many people get stuck. It gets very uncomfortable and then they want to stop the process of I'm just not going to show up on social media anymore and
Yeah.
I'm not going to speak my truth anymore because it gets uncomfortable, but the discomfort is a part of it. You have to accept it, you have to embrace it, and then allow
Mm.
yourself to go through it. There's something
Yeah.
else you said that I think is actually really important for us to like dive deeper into.
Mm.
And you said it's abundance versus competition when we want to show up online.
Yeah. Mm.
And it's very true when we recognize so many people are allowed to have the same message and they are called to sharing the same message. When we see that as abundance and we see that as everyone's voice is valuable, you'll
Mm.
see it as abundant and you're not going to put yourself in competition with anyone else and think, well, if they have the platform, then I won't. I think that type of competition is one of the most emotionally, energetically harmful things we could do to ourselves because
Mhm.
then you're always competing and you'll look at other people's success as your failure.
For sure.
And
And you know,
abundance, I
mm.
just want to say this last thing too. And it's like we have to remember abundance is realizing that what we want in the world isn't like a pie. So if Abby has three pieces and I have two, then all five are gone. And so now we have to take from Sima and Abby to have a piece. Like that's not abundance. Abundance is there's five pieces. If somebody wants a piece of this, God expands it and will make it seven pieces. And if someone else wants it, God expands it and now there's 12 pieces and so on and so forth. And that's what abundance is. So every time you enter into a field, an arena that you want to have a voice in, God expands that space for you to also fit in. So really, there's no competition at all.
Not at all. And you know, it's kind of I think about my sort of early days on social media. So the only thing I was devoted to was showing up and sharing my message, sharing it from my heart. Like I was, I'm quite creative, so I really love the creative process of being on social media. I love sharing my message in different ways, and this is something that I'm really passionate about and how I authentically show up. And I was just doing that. I was doing my thing. And this was like early in my social media journey. And this is exactly when, like, I would get DMs from different people quite often, like people I didn't know. And I remember when I would get messages from people like, oh my God, like, and I didn't know this person. And I would be like, oh my God, this is so exciting. It's like, someone who's just like felt my energy and came into my little community. How wonderful. And I remember in these early days, that is when Danny Morell reached out to me. And he was like, oh, like I just found out I'm a reflector, like this stuff is fascinating. And I remember feeling like my energy was in alignment because, reflectors, how they show up in their energy is they really see people. They really deeply see alignment. They're very good at spotting when people are, moving authentically. And I remember feeling like, wow, like this guy is reaching out. He's a reflector and he's really sort of commenting on what I'm sharing and my work. And I remember just feeling seen. I remember feeling like, oh, this is like, it's working. And, at this point, I didn't know Danny or anything, but then we started, shortly after that, we started working together. And this is what I'm using this example for is it does not matter if you are showing up and all of your followers are your family members, other people can still see your page.
Yeah.
There's so many people that will reach out to me. They don't even follow me,
Hmm.
and I think it's if we convince ourselves and we tell ourselves, oh my God, like I can't just show up and share because my family members, they're gonna unfollow me or what are they gonna think? I'm gonna be a topic of conversation. Then you're missing out on these opportunities that are literally orbiting in the field of what you're sharing,
Yeah.
And I love that example because to me, that was like, that became the next level of my visibility when I
Yeah.
started working with Danny and meeting with, people in his community as well. And
Yeah.
I wasn't like having thousands of followers at that
You know,
time.
I think that's something a lot of people think too. They think that visibility, then it's like my worth and my value comes from how many likes or how many shares and how many followers I have. And that's why, again, the importance is the message and not the messenger.
Mhm.
And I also, like, when I met Danny, again, it was through social media. I had a very small account. It was nothing like that. And every time I would post something and it would get like, let's say 10 likes, I'm like,
Mhm.
great, 10 people liked this. I impacted 10 people. I didn't see 10 as small. I saw 10 as big because, again, it's not about me.
Mhm.
It's about the message and who I get to become in this process of sharing the message. And so little by little by little, and when I met Danny too, Danny and I met like I think like 8 years ago. I didn't have a big social media page. I think I had like 2 or 3 thousand followers. Like that was it. And
Mhm.
and I think the purpose of this is people want to talk about visibility, but they see visibility of having these huge platforms. And I'm like, that's not visibility. Visibility is about reaching the right people that you're meant to inspire.
Yeah.
When you operate from that space,
Mhm.
then the followers you have, even if it's 10,000, even if it's 5,000, even if it's something small, you'll recognize that's not actually small because I'm inspiring this many people. And when you
Mhm.
operate in that way, you're in such alignment that the opportunities start coming. And then that's where all of a sudden you'll have reels that go viral and more people find you and more people experience you. You have opportunities like you met Danny and Danny then brought you into his platform and you were able to meet his community and you had more visibility there. It all comes from coming from this very authentic space of you as well. And people just are like, I want to be seen. I want to be seen. And oftentimes I ask them, I'm like, but are you seeing yourself?
Yeah. Mhm.
People often don't even see themselves in this. Their identity becomes the role they want to play of what they're delivering. And that's where authenticity becomes so stinking important. Like, do you see yourself in this? Are you who you want to be in this? Because in my experience of this, my visibility really didn't take off and expand until I became very authentic to myself, not just on social media, but within myself.
Yeah.
And that authenticity, I feel like authenticity expands and people love that energy. So it's not about who you're showing up as, it's is that version of you who's showing up being authentic or it's a mask because people feel energy and people are drawn to authentic.
Yeah, and you know who is a really, really good example of this? We've spoke about
Mhm.
this before. Good morning and shit.
Oh,
Like Leo Skeppy. Like he just shows up and it's like a FaceTime video. Like there's no edits, nothing. It's
and
just
you know what?
him
There's
being him.
no, that guy. he's not sharing anything. Like there's no message. It's just, hey guys, good morning and shit. Like that's his tagline. And and then he's created a brand off of being that. And I know there's so many other people that have also done the same thing. And it's like you see, guys, it's just about authenticity. It's just about being
That's it.
authentic, being real.
Yeah.
And I'm sure when he started his page, he probably had limiting beliefs of, am I worthy of this? Are people going to want to see me? But there's this, I like to call it this fuck it in us, where
Mm.
sometimes when we want to do something, we just have to say fuck it.
Yeah.
There's so
Oh,
many
yeah.
different things in our brain that will go off, well, this, well, that. You kind of have to look at all of it and just say, fuck it. I'm just going
Mm.
to go for it. And just go for it. Just jump. People get way too in their head. And when you get in your head about something and you want to believe or you want to spot all the reasons that you're being delayed from showing up, you're going to find all these different reasons, some of which like aren't really even valid reasons, but you're going to make them valid reasons. Like you and I both know someone who was a bag full of excuses of why they couldn't show up on social media. And the excuses were, I come from a lineage of women who don't speak up, so I'm scared to speak up.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's like, those were examples of people are using excuses. And it's like,
Yeah.
I love that you are aware that you come from a lineage of women who don't speak up, but don't make that your weakness now because it's
Yeah.
actually not your
It's
weakness.
not a sentence either. I think,
No.
and this is why a lot of people avoid those shadows because it's like people have these shadows that come up and they're like, oh, this again, or, and they see it as a sentence. It is a sentence if that's where you leave it, but
Yes.
you get to choose. You get to feel liberated because the shadow is only coming up to be seen, for you to see it and
Exactly.
for you to unravel it, let go of it, and
It's
choose
like
different.
don't make your shadows the excuse of why you don't do something. And I
Yeah.
think it's very easy for us to experience shadows and then say, this is why I'm not doing this. But don't do that. Like, have that awareness now and say, oh, if I see this shadow, this is why I get to do this.
Mm,
So
mm.
if you come from a lineage of women who could not share their voice authentically or publicly, and you have recognized that in your lineage, beautiful. And now you know this is why you get to, this is why you get to take that leap. This is why you even have the calling to do it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
make your shadows like your purpose, like your pushing point of like what actually pushes you to go forward, because shadows can be used that way.
Exactly. I feel like a lot of the time I like to try and use my fears as my fuel.
Yeah.
So, and those shadows, like there's something like when it comes to certain things that I post on social media, sometimes I will literally feel like, oh, this feels a little bit out of the box. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if people are gonna get it. And as soon as I have that feeling now, I say, I need to post it right away because literally I know, okay, whatever it is, it's feeling stretchy and my brain is trying to, like you said, find the evidence of why it is not a good idea to post it. It's trying to retract. But actually, because I know, when you're about to expand, it feels uncomfortable. And the brain wants us to be safe. It wants us to do the things that it knows. It's like out of my comfort zone. Because I know that, I literally say, oh, that means it's going to be really good. So I've got to post it. It's going to like serve so many people. And literally every single time I do that and I have that thought and I challenge myself and I post it, these are my most well received things that I post. And so, yeah, it's just creating that relationship with, I think creating that relationship with your nervous system and understanding when you're stretching, and that's when the shadows come up. That's
You
the
know, I think that's a
integration.
lot of what people, and I think at one point for you and I as well, like we just didn't know this. We didn't know that this is how these things work. And we're so used to like, if I feel uncomfortable, then this doesn't feel right and I shouldn't do this. And I think
Mhm.
that's where like this other deeper topic, which I'm sure we'll do an episode all about this, but that's where discernment comes in. Am I
Mm,
uncomfortable because I shouldn't be doing this? Because
mm,
this is my body telling me that this is a no? Or am I uncomfortable simply because it's stretching me and I'm uncomfortable, but this is to my greatest good to do this?
Yes. I think, as well, I feel like there is a distinction between them. You can feel that distinction when something is just fear-based and you're expanding, and when something is the truth, when something doesn't feel good in your body. But, just to as well talk about when we are confronted with these shadows, and when our brain does its thing and keeps us safe and talks us out of it, this is when a lot of people quit. And
Yeah.
so a fact that I learned today is, like, I don't know if it was like 9 out of 10 businesses don't go the distance or something like this. And I was like, that is insane. But the reason is because people don't persevere. People don't hold their devotion, their staying power to their vision. And, I think, we're talking about visibility in the online space, but, often that's related to a passion or a business or something like this. Think about why you started in the first place. So,
Hmm.
why you're passionate about what you're sharing, why you wanted to start a business and what it is. That's where you need to start.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Passion and purpose are the foundation of everything, I feel. And so without that, you won't go the long way. And it's almost like this idea of dancing with your shadows and celebrating your shadows. That is actually a really big part of this.
Mm-hmm.
It's having a different perspective. I learned a very long time ago through one of my coaches. He said, Sima, when you want to when you want to create something and you have these limiting beliefs, aka these shadows that come up, you can look at them from the same lens you've been looking at them, or you can sit at a table and envision these different seats at the table as different perspectives. And
Hmm.
so he really taught me this ability to sit as a different version of myself with the same situation and have different perspectives in this situation, and then pick the perspective that feels the best, that feels the most empowering. And I feel that with our shadows, we really get to do that, because if we look at a shadow that's coming up or a limiting belief that's coming up, and we just say, this is why I have to stop and I can't do this, we can also feel in our vessel that doesn't feel good. And then we stop, and then, okay, you're back at square one, and it's the same place you wanted to get out of. But
Hmm.
if we sit with our shadows and start having a new perspective with them, of, I'm so happy you showed up. You are actually my stepping stone, and I need you, shadow, and this is my stepping stone. And so my shadows are good. There is no light without shadow. The
Hmm.
bigger the light gets, and this is such an important piece I want everyone to listen to. The bigger your light gets, the bigger the shadow gets as well. So
Hmm.
each time you go to level up and expand your light and expand your vessel, your shadow is going to get bigger as well. So there's never going to be a time where you're not having this experience with your shadow or limiting beliefs. It's about the perspective you have with it and how you choose to dance with it. You could fight with your shadows or you can dance with them.
Hmm. Hmm.
Shadows are not a bad thing. They're actually, it's like when we look at creation and we look at the different dimensions that create our reality here, light and shadow are hand in hand. And so many people are obsessed with more light, more light, more light, more light. But think of it like a lamp, Abby. When there's a
Hmm.
lamp and you are like a certain distance from it, the light of that lamp creates a shadow behind you, does it not? Shadows are
Hmm.
literally created
Hmm.
from light. Shadows are
Yeah.
created from light, and we need to remember this. And so people always want to walk only towards the light and only the light. And think of it as a lamp. The closer you walk to the light, doesn't the shadow behind you get even bigger?
Hmm.
So
Wow.
this
Hmm.
is the thing in life. People are always like the light, the light, the light, the light, and they want to bypass the shadows. And it's like they don't recognize the more you want to go towards your light, the bigger that shadow gets.
Yeah.
And so once you realize the shadow is just as important as the light and they go hand in hand, you'll
Hmm.
create this beautiful dance with both of them.
Yeah. And often the shadow is part of the light. It's part of what your light is,
It's a
We have to,
reflection of it.
yeah. And sometimes we have to go through that shadow, so And what I mean by this is a lot of people, they actually turn their shadows into their light. That becomes their story. That becomes their,
Mhm.
you
It's
know,
your stepping stone.
exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I would like to talk about as well because, we started this episode talking about how this is the first episode we've recorded
Mm-hmm.
since actually launching the podcast. And because the podcast, this has been a whole new level for us, a whole new
Mm-hmm.
way of showing up for our communities, of communicating more of who we are. And I would like to ask you, and I'm going to shout myself as well, but was there anything that came up for you in this evolution?
So many shadows. So many
Yeah,
shadows. I
yes.
think after, because as each episode comes out, like I listen to them like an actual viewer and I want to listen to it. And listening to myself speak in like the very first episode, I had all of these shadows that I was like, I can feel in my voice and how I'm speaking that it's like, hear me, I want to be heard. And I spotted that within myself and I was like, ooh,
Mm,
like there is a shadow where I have this other aspect of when I'm speaking with someone and in relation with
mm,
someone else, it's like, oh, but also make sure to hear me. And I felt that shadow of mine coming out where it's like I have to not compete, but I have to make sure my voice is heard because if there's someone else in the dialect, then their voice is going to overpower mine. And I realized it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do
mm.
with my upbringing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so that was a shadow that came up and I got to work through. And a very normal shadow that I'm like, oh, I'm not even surprised that this came up is what if people don't want to listen to this? What if people don't like this? What
Yeah.
if this doesn't get to the place that you and I envision it to get to?
Mm,
And all of those shadows come up. And I think that's where we see that and we want to stop or people want to stop. And it's like, what if it doesn't? But I'm like, Seema, what if it does? And anytime we start something new, sometimes we think it's going to be as big as where we're at right now. But it's like, no, this is a baby. And this is going to
mm,
teach us a million and one lessons, and it's going to have us grow in a million and one ways. And as long as you and I continue to hold the vision of where we see this going with our intention and the purpose behind it, that's exactly where it's going to go. And so I saw those shadows and I was actually so excited that they came up because I'm like, those are
mm,
frequencies and energies in which I get to shift my perspective on them and I get
mm,
to be even more excited about where this is going and I get to be even more clear on my purpose, on my intention behind this and
mhm.
continue to move forward. So the shadows were beautiful.
Exactly. And that is again like I think I reminded myself a lot of this, but we were talking about it a lot after the episode 1 launched and then episode 2, and we were having this conversation of, oh my God, like I'm seeing this in myself, and but that's the stretch. And I was reminding you, this is like brand new.
Yeah.
Like this is,
Yeah.
we're in episode 1 or we're in episode 2, and we only get to grow with this. But for me, it was also kind of the same feeling of, am I contributing enough? That
Mhm.
was my thing. It was, am I valuable in this? Because actually, what we're talking about in this space, and this is something I am moving through in my own business as well, is I'm starting to expand in different ways. And, I've always kind of showed up in my business and showed up online talking about human design and human design only. And
Mhm.
the fact of the matter is that's, it's always been this beautiful foundation of my work, but truly the power of my work is understanding people through their human design and connecting with, okay, like how can you use this to elevate your life? That's what it's about. It's always been about the transformation and the self connection and elevation for me. And I've started, over the last year or something, I've started growing in how I coach my clients, how I work with people. And so actually showing up online and sharing more from that perspective. And, in this podcast, this is what we're doing as well.
Yeah.
We're talking about so many different things. And that in itself has been so stretchy for me and so uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And it's so much easier for me to just go back to all the way I used to post, but it's like it's not in alignment. It's not authentic for me in the same way,
Yeah.
And so I'm like sort of moving through this evolution of how I show up in my work. And something that I've done in this, and I think this is also when it comes to people showing up and stepping into visibility in the online space, you can literally speak it out. Speak out what you're going to do. Set the intention, make things clear. And so, something I've done in my business is I've said, this is I don't do one-to-one readings anymore. I'm doing coaching containers. So if you want to work with me, this is how we do it, And so it's like setting those intentions, letting people know that that you're in moving into this new expansion. And that's allowed me to get more comfortable with it myself and keep myself accountable instead of retracting, as we do.
So
Um,
basically, when you get very uncomfortable, you lean further into it. So your discomfort of switching how you're showing up, it's like instead of hiding, you know what? I'm going to double down and I'm going to tell everyone how I'm shifting and that I can't back out. So you really just like, you lean into it even more.
I'm just like all in. I'm all
It
in.
works. It
It
works.
does. It does. And
Yeah.
I think as well, like when we do that, because look, we're talking about visibility and we're talking about expression, it's all about your voice, right?
Yeah.
And your voice is your manifestation tool.
Hmm.
Your words are your wand. This is
Yeah.
how we create our life. It's how we express who we are is by using our voice. And so sometimes I think it's really, really powerful. It's that law of command as well. It's being intentional about what you're saying. And
Hmm.
for me inside my business, and these are pivots that I feel really called to make because I know there are people waiting for that. They're waiting for me to step into this new level of how I show up, of
Hmm.
how I run my business. This just really helps me sort of stay accountable. So as I said, I don't then if the fears come up, well, I'm already going through it. I'm already in the eye of it, so I can't
Yeah.
turn back now.
Yeah.
That's for me, that keeps me accountable and in movement towards that authenticity, you
Yeah.
know.
And I think one thing you and I can both agree on is when we have these experiences of expansion for ourselves, because no one starts anything and then it's that. Everything is always growing, everything is always evolving.
Yeah.
And when we have these experiences of expansion and evolution for ourselves, I personally always see how much then it expands the clients that I work with and how much it supports them. So then I kind of tell myself, I'm like, Seema, you signed up and you agreed to be this coach and this leader, and I want to, and it's such a privilege to be able to do it. And so I'm like, you get to go first. So each expansion that comes, each next level of visibility that comes for me, and so it's about how I feel called to show up, what version of me is expanding and showing up here and how I'm evolving. I always remind myself, I'm like, Seema, you get to go first, because how in the world are you going to lead anyone in their evolution if you haven't given yourself permission to lead yourself through it first? And so I think people need to remember that too. Sometimes they just think of like, I'm here to give this message and that's it. And I'm like, you guys, you are the vessel that it's being given through, and you are just as important as those people that you want to coach. Don't you think that God wants to work through you also? So allow yourself to be worked through, allow yourself to literally expand and evolve, because that becomes the next level of your offerings to people. And for anybody who wants to be a leader in any field, in any way of that, you're always going to go first. God's always going to put you first to go through that that cycle, to go through that death and rebirth. And it's like, and it's a get to, it's not a bad thing. You get to go first to then lead the way for other people.
Mm. I love that so much. And I think as well, it comes down to I think, people will maybe I know I've had friends say this to me where they're like, "Oh, but you're like, your social media, it's doing great. Like you won't feel any shadows or any challenges or in this space." And I'm like, "Of course I do. Like this is, again, like we're always evolving. Like you said, we're
Always.
always
We're
moving into the next level. We're meeting different layers of who we are and allowing them to come online."
hmm
And we're going to meet shadows in that space. And so it is about walking through them and know
yeah.
that they're
It's,
forging.
you know what's coming up as you're saying that? It literally is about walk through the fire, guys. You think
Mm.
you're like, we're not going to walk through this and it's going to be rainbows and butterflies. We already know that. So give yourself permission to walk through the fire and know that you are resilient. Know that you can. Know that you wouldn't be called to do this if you weren't also going to be given every single tool and support that you need along the way. Like, just start. Just start. Like, just stop getting in your head and just start. Just go make that first reel. Go make that. If you feel awkward, it's okay. Tell people, hey guys, I'm here. I feel really freaking awkward, but I'm here. Beautiful. Start right there. There's no such thing as perfection or perfectly ready. None of us are ever ready for anything we do. We're ready enough. And so then you
Exactly.
jump and then
Yeah.
you go and then
It's
you'll learn
Mhm.
the rest of the way. And this is so true for everything in life, Abby, because when I was becoming a dental hygienist, I don't know if I've shared this with you before or not, but we in California, as dental hygienists, we're allowed to give injections, the same injections that doctors give. Have I told you this before or no?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so when I was in dental hygiene school is 2 years. So for 2 years, you're learning specifically about gum health, the teeth, the oral cavity, all of that stuff. Once you get into your second year is when you start giving injections to patients too. There's about like 10 different injection sites in the mouth. And each one of these injections, we had to do, I think, 2 or 3 times and get signed off. Then you're ready to go. So there are certain injections that people aren't going to need as much of. So it could have been by the time you're done with dental hygiene school and then you get licensed to go into the real world, there's a certain injection that you've done all of 3 times and you're signed off, you're good to go,
Wow.
but you've done it 3 times. So
Mm.
now I'm a licensed dental hygienist. I'm working in a periodontal office, and these are the offices where you're working with the deep cleanings and the heavy duty cases, and every other patient needs injections. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I've done this about 4 times in clinic. And now here I am a lot. And that's the thing. And my instructors would always tell me the training really comes like when you become really good at being a hygienist, it's
Mm.
not in school. It's when you're in the field. You just know we trusted you enough. This is why we signed you off on these things. You're ready to do it. And so I remember the first like month or so of me working, I'm sitting there with patients. I'm like, there's this thing in my head where I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I need
Mm.
an instructor over my head. But it's
Right.
like, no, Seema, you're ready. You do it. So then I leaned into
Mm.
this with this confidence, with this security, and then you do it so many times and you literally become a professional at it. And so it's a reminder to everyone, no one in any field is perfectly ready to go do the thing. You literally develop the muscles
Mm.
and the skills when you're in it. So jump and go. Just
Ex-
jump and go. If I could do it with
No.
injections in people's mouths, you could do it with social media.
Exactly, exactly. And one thing I sort of want to, I guess, finish on with this because you said something before
Hmm.
about, when you would get 5 likes or 10 likes or whatever it was, you seen that as abundance. And
Yes.
there's an example that I use quite a lot. It's imagine if you had an actual physical store. You have to see your digital, your Instagram. It's like a digital store. It's
Yeah.
open 24 hours a day and it's open to the whole world. Like, how
Yeah.
amazing is that? Like, I think that is like, what a time to be alive. And,
Yeah.
so when you get 10 likes, that is 10 people coming into your store. and looking around and liking what they see, you
Yeah.
know? And so if you were, say you have 100 people look at a reel that you've done, literally that is a
It's
hundred people
huge.
coming into your store. And I
Mm-hmm.
think when we can again shift our perspective, pick this perspective and
Yeah.
see it from that perspective of, okay, if this was an actual store and I had 100 people come in one day, this I would be talking about this day all day long. I would
It'd be
go
such a
home
good
and I would
day.
tell my friends, 100 people came in today. It was like crazy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, and once we, as you said, everything we focus on, it expands. So the more that you give your
Exactly.
attention to that and your
That.
gratitude, it's going to expand.
That the more you give gratitude to that and you see the 1, 2, 3, 10, 50, a
Mm,
100, whatever it is, when you see that as big and you give gratitude to that, you will receive more of that. And when you see that as, I positively inspired 2 people today, I positively impacted 5 people today, don't you think the universe is going to give you more and more and more people to positively inspire? And don't you think that the universe is going to work through you in such a way to expand you in your consciousness to then be
mhm.
able to positively inspire thousands, if not millions? Of course it can. We just have to see the small as big. People want to go from 0 to 100. It's like, but are you even ready to be at that capacity? Like, if you and I right
Mm,
now, let's just say, had hundreds of thousands of followers on our podcast, were we ready to even hold that many?
mm,
No, but we're
yeah.
ready to hold as many as we have. And I remember when we had 5 followers, like, oh my God, 5 people want to listen to us. When we got a
Yes.
hundred, we're like, 100 people want to listen to us. And then it became 200 and 300. We're like, oh my God, 300 people want to listen to us speak.
Yeah.
And so it's just about, it's exactly what you said. It's the gratitude of it, and
Mm,
just keep focusing on positively impacting people's lives with what you're doing. Keep your focus and intention there and be grateful
mm,
for all of it. It's not because, truth be told, Abby, in the grand scheme of things, think of it, if they're in your entire career, if there was one person, just one person's life that you changed or you
mm.
helped change, and this person now lives this beautiful, healthy, happy, abundant life, isn't it worth it just for that one person?
100%.
So
Mm.
one is huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
so
it.
that's how I view all of this. And I think
That's it.
it's
That's when
huge.
it,
Yeah.
yeah. So when it comes to visibility, guys, these are our top tips.
Our top tips and our experiences.
In
And
our
just
experiences.
just jump, just dive in, just
Just
go.
jump, just do it.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I think sometimes as well, when we actually, the initial doing it the first time is the hardest.
It
But
is,
once
but
you
just do
sort of
it.
step into that and you get into your rhythm, it's like, it's kind of like, like you said, your first day at work when you haven't worked somewhere before and you're like, I don't know where the toilet is. I don't know where am I going to eat lunch? Like, there's all of those sort of anxieties. It's what it's like in social media. And
It really
so
is. And we've done this, you guys, if you really think of all these other aspects of your life that you've done it and you've got through it and everything was
it's the
fine,
same.
exact the same. The
It's the same.
exact same thing.
It's the same.
So
So,
do it, have
yeah.
your intention, be aligned to God, be aligned to purpose and love and heart, and make sure you don't want to be seen, you want your message to be seen, and start
Mhm.
from there.
Amazing.
Beautiful.
Thank you guys so much for joining us on another episode of Spiritually Unfiltered. We love your messages so much. We
We do.
love we love hearing how you're using this in your life and
Yes.
how you're receiving it. Again, like the whole episode we've talked about that authenticity and that intention in how you're showing up, and this is exactly what we do in this space. And it just makes us so happy that we are impacting so many of you. So thank
Yes, so
you.
please, please keep reaching out to us. Let us know what is supportive to you. Let us know other topics you want us to talk about here. And thank you so much for listening to us.
Thank you guys. Bye.